Peter, we got a really, really good one today, don't you think?
One of the best. Someone that we've been talking about on both of our channels for crikey the last couple of years.
At least.
After you introduced me to one of what I think is one of the best books out there at the moment.
Yes. So this guest, I met him. Well, I talked to him during San Diego Comic-Con, and he had a panel. He had one of the best panels out there. And I said, "Hey, would you be willing to come on our, YouTube channels just to talk?" And we got him for about an hour. So we're going to make this as quick, as seamless as possible. We're going to answer all your questions if you have any. But let's bring him on. You ready, Peter?
Yeah, let's do this.
Rodney, how's it going?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing well. I'm in California, and he told you before, he's in the UK, so he's got like 8 hours difference. It's about 8 p.m. over there. So we're doing fine.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. So
really excited to meet you, Rodney. As we've said, me and Efren have been a massive fan of your work for a long time. You've got the distinguished honor, I think, of converting Efren here to horror a little bit, because he's not that much of a horror man.
Yeah, I'm a scary cat, when it comes to horror. The original Exorcist with Linda Blair, I said, oh my God, I cannot watch this movie. It scares me too much because of my upbringing. But reading your books, and Peter has a different channel too, where they talk about scary movies, it's eased me into it. I am starting to watch scary movies. For comic books, it doesn't scare me at all for some reason. I love reading them, but just the movies.
Yeah. Well, the movies are the good stuff. It helps add a little bit to life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Peter, do we have any comments so far? So we just jump right into it.
Yeah, no, we've got a few people joining. We've got JP Venom, who's joined the chat. JP Venom, Rodney's got a brilliant YouTube channel, and a little while ago, he set up a comic book review show. And what we just mentioned backstage there, but we actually reviewed Volume 1 of Killadelphia, which I know we'll talk about in a little while. We reviewed in total 12 books, and Killadelphia was by far streets ahead of every other book. In fact, it sounds terrible to say, Rodney, I apologize. You only dropped 2 points. You got straight 10s across the board almost. It's fair to say we were absolutely gushing about that book.
You.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Very kind.
Amazing. And we've also got good old Fuzzy Dunlop, who's a massive supporter of both of our channels. And thank you for the Boondocks. I watched religiously. Fuzzy's a big fan.
I appreciate it.
I was telling you in the back before you went on, when Killadelphia for Advanced Orders, the minute I seen that title, I said, I am there. Just something about the title, Killadelphia, just grabbed me. And then I read the synopsis about it, presidents, like the very first presidents and the founding fathers become vampires. And went, dang, that is so freaking different. And I've been a fan, a super fan, basically ever since then. I keep on talking about you on our channels. So, yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the goodwill and the support.
Yeah. So you ready for the first question, Rodney?
Let's go.
All right. This is from me. How did you get into writing on TV, film, and comic books? And did you do all of them at once, or did you do comic books first?
Television was first. I kind of slugged around Hollywood for a bunch of years trying to get a job as a writer, and it finally happened. And probably after about being a professional writer for about 12 years, I was working on a show, Marvel's Runaways, for Hulu.
Yes.
And I asked them to reach out to Marvel Television, to reach out to Marvel Publishing, and to let them know that if they ever had any open assignments, I would love to take a crack at writing a comic book. And they gave me Falcon, which was my first comic book, 8 issues, way back when, I think 2017 or so. And that was the first comic book I ever wrote that sort of broke me in. I think I did Lando, Double or Nothing after that. And then Lion Forge, I did a book, Incredible. And then I did Killadelphia, I think, after that.
That's when I joined. I probably read some of your books beforehand, the Star Wars books. Like I said, I read books sometimes so quick, I want to get into it. I don't even look to see who the artist or writer is. So I know I read the Lando one, but Killadelphia is the one for me that just went, oh my God, I can't wait to read this story.
I think that's one that's closest to my voice. If you were to ask me what I would prefer to write, what I write in Killadelphia is the tone that I would prefer.
Yeah, great storyline so far. Peter, you got the next question?
Yeah, sure. Just before we jump onto my question, just Fuzzy Dunlop's got a quick question for you, Rodney. Wu-Tang American Saga is one of my favorite shows of the past 5 years. Were you a Wu-Tang fan previously?
I was not so much a fanatic. I always appreciated and respected them. More of a Method Man guy than anything else. And, working next to the RZA every day for, my time there was an honor. And then going to Staten Island and seeing where they came up. It was a great experience being on that show. And if I wasn't a fanatic when I started, I became one over that course of time of being involved with the show. A lot of great guys, met virtually all of the members, the original members, except Old Dirty Bastard, of course, rest in peace. But I really developed a sense of respect for what they accomplished coming from where they came from. And it was odd because the RZA, when he interviewed me for the job, all we really talked about was comic books. We talked more about Iron Man. He asked me if I knew anything about comic books. And I was like, do I know anything about comic books? And we really didn't talk about music or Wu-Tang Clan. All we talked about was comic books. Yeah. So it certainly wasn't the interview that I prepared for, but I guess it worked because I got the job.
Nice.
Yeah. Good outcome at the end. And just before I ask you my question, just to jump back into Ephraim's slightly, were you always wanting to be a writer, Rodney, or was there a different career path before you became a writer?
Well, when I was in the 8th grade, I had my first English teacher tell me that if I ever worked as hard on writing as I did being a class clown, that I might be able to be a good writer one day. And I didn't actually know what that meant because I come from a small town in Maryland, Annapolis, and I really didn't know that you could get paid for being a writer. I had no idea how it worked. I didn't know what the bridge was to a career in the creative arts. And so, I tried. I'm a big guy, 6'7", 6'8", currently about 320 or so, and tried to play football, tried to play basketball, tried to do a lot of things. I wasn't good enough at either to even try, but I had to give it the old college try, and even professional wrestling for a hot second.
Wow.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah. And tried a bunch of things. And then when all of those things failed and I had to get a regular gig, I was so miserable that I was like, there's got to be something else. And had a great conversation with a really great friend who encouraged me to take a shot at writing. And I went back to school for real and started working in the industry as a production assistant and just working my way up from the bottom and learning. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
I have one more question about wrestling. Did you have a nickname for yourself?
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
I never got that far. I was at WCW at their power plant, which was their training facility. And they basically just beat the hell out of me for quite some time, to a point where it was like, there's got to be an easier way to make a living.
Were you ever on TV for WCW?
No.
On a YouTube use.
Yeah, no. We didn't get that far. I would have been on TV for an ambulance taking me away from the training facility, not for being an actual wrestler.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay, Rodney. So I am a big horror fan. I have another channel which we as Ephraim mentioned, focus on horror. And I know you dabble in horror and you like your scary movies as well. I'm just wondering, can you recall the first time you remember a movie or a book actually moving you to make you feel afraid of something?
I think Salem's Lot, the miniseries, TV series, was the first television thing I saw when I was a kid. And it was something about the little Glick boy floating in the air and scratching on the window that will stay in my head for the rest of my life. And I think early Stephen King, because I was that kid. The Universal monsters were more interesting to me than they were scary, because I think even as a kid, I could figure out a way to get away from all of them with the exception of Dracula and the Wolfman, I guess, and the Wolfman too. So it didn't really scare me. But once I got there, and then I think Kolchak, the Night Stalker, and then The Exorcist, and just different things that started to, the 70s and the 80s were a really fertile time for horror. And I think even to this day, I will go out to the theater, because here in LA, you have opportunity. They show a lot of older movies in actual movie theaters. I will go to those movies like they're new. Like I will be just as excited to see The Fog or any of those John Carpenter horror films or anything. The Changeling with George C. Scott. Any of that stuff, I'm still like a rabid fan over, just like way back when.
Nice.
It's interesting. So myself and James, who do this other channel, we do a series where we go back and we respectively look at older films. So we've done things like the first Friday the 13th. But the joy remembering an older... So, for example, one of my all-time favourites, Fright Night, the original Fright Night movie.
Rodney Barnes.
Yeah. Rewatching that was just phenomenal, you know? Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal. Just going to quickly jump to the chat before we move on to the next question, Efren. Sure. We've got lots of conversation about Wu-Tang. Fuzzy says he wanted his wife, or he's asked his wife to get a Wu-Tang tattoo every year, but she won't let him. Just do it, Fuzzy. Just do it.
Do it, man.
But he's scared. Yeah.
Where does she want you to get it though? Where does she want you to get the tattoo? That's the big thing.
Fuzzy. Let one know in the chat in explicit detail where you want this tattoo to go made. We've got Andy from Perpetual Comics. Nice to see you, Andy. I hope you are well, bud. And I'll see you later on for the Killer Comic Show. Please do go check out that. Quick question from GP Venom before we move on to you, Efren. Are we going to get a second volume of Blackula?
Yeah, I've been talking to my good friend James Aquilone, who has the rights to Kolchak the Night Stalker, and I'm trying to do a Kolchak Blackula book
nice.
for the second volume. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, I'd loved it. Would love to do it. Would love Jason Sean Alexander to do the art again. We sort of have a thing, and I would love to do it again. It's an expensive venture making those books. It's a labor of love. But yeah, I really dig it.
Nice.
It's tremendous.
Speaking of Kolchak, when you put him in Killadelphia, I went, oh my God, that was a stop moment. I had to read it at least a couple times when I see Kolchak in there. But that was so awesome. You know, I love it.
It was fun. It was fun. That and Mulder and Scully as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. Just putting in these characters in the book, you know. But let's see. My next question, let me see. Okay, here we go. Has anyone influenced you as a writer?
Oh my God, far too many people to name. Off the top of my head, I mean, I've always been a huge Stephen King, Richard Matheson fan. I mean, those were my guys growing up consistently. But so many people, James Baldwin, Tananarive Due, so many. Not even just horror writers, they're the journalists sometimes, Carl Jung, just a bunch of Alan Watts. You know, there's so many people that, you know, thoughtful people that, you know, use words in a way to move people and move societies. I've always wanted to be someone who wrote stories that, you know, touched humanity in a way. So still working on it.
Nice.
Kind of linking into that one then Rodney. I mean, we spoke briefly at the start there, and I know how busy you are. You've got so much going on, so much juggling. But in terms of writing, are you managing to get any downtime and read at the moment? And if you are, what's on your kind of pull list? What are you reading?
Not much. I mean, my local comic shop closed a couple of months ago, so it's odd. I'm trying to drive across town to get to one. Now I have to factor that in. So I haven't been reading anything in the past couple of months that's new. I haven't been doing anything other than working. I miss it. You know, one day I hope to revisit. I've been reading novels, but mostly audiobooks on planes. Stephen King's latest, bunch of different things, but mostly audiobooks more than anything else.
Yeah. And Andy from Perpetual Comics has just jumped in here and saying, Rodney is a master of his craft. Killadelphia is arguably one of the best pieces of writing out there. A gripping exploration of violence and survival. Absolutely, Andy, couldn't agree more. Efren, do apologise just before we jump in, just whilst we're talking Killadelphia. Rodney, I love the medium of comic books reading, but I do love a good film. Is there any hope of a Killadelphia movie or a TV series at any point?
Yeah, it's been in development. The rights were optioned a couple of years ago. And, you know, it's a weird thing that's going on right now in the industry since the strikes have sort of slowed business to a crawl. So getting something new to buyers is really, really, really tough. Andre Brower, the late, great Andre Brower, was attached to play James Sangster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was going to be James Sangster. We had some great conversations about the book. and how he saw it and how he saw the world of Killadelphia. He was actually a big Seesaw fan.
Right.
And so, we will revisit it. I think 2025 is when I hear the business is going to start back up. And so I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing this rock up this hill.
Absolutely. Please do, because that would be something to behold, I think.
For sure.
Yep. Peter, any other comments, or should I go on to my next question?
No, on to your next question, mate.
Okay. Looking back at your career, what are you most proud of? I'm talking about obviously comic books, films, or TV.
That I didn't quit. There have been so many times, we're probably having this conversation right now for the 30 or 40 times that the entertainment industry has said yes to me, not the 10,000 times that they've said no. Yeah. And, being able to endure emotionally throughout an arduous, journey is probably something that I will pat myself on the back on when it all comes to an end. If it ever comes to an end, or if I'm cognizant of the fact that it has ended. So, yeah.
We've spoke, Efren, haven't we, to a few comic book writers and artists on the show, and they quite often talk about the fact that some of the work is so delayed that they do a piece of work, but it doesn't hit press or whatever for years, or they do lots of work that just never sees the light of day. That must be quite crushing, I would have thought, if you put your heart and soul into a piece of work and it just seems to sit in the ether.
It's always a disappointing. There's always disappointment. I think it's how you deal with it that matters most. It's what you sign up for. It comes with the territory. It's kind of like being a parent. There's going to come a point when you don't like your kid. You love them all the time, but you might not like them. And it's like that kind of with this business. You have days where you hit a home run. You have days where you strike out. And in between, you get some singles, doubles, and triples. So you it comes with the territory, rejection. If anybody ever asked me about advice or what's the most important thing, the ability to have tough skin, the ability to just endure and suffer well, that comes with this. Even at the higher levels, you're always looking up at somebody. So no matter how high you get, there's always someone who's above you. And being able to be grateful and have humility is huge. And so, if you had told an 8-year-old Rodney that one day he would have an opportunity to write for a living and have conversations with gentlemen such as yourselves, he'd been kicking and screaming, this is going to be fantastic. So the other part, you just take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Fuzzy's put in the comments here, you fall down 7 times, but you stand up 8. Absolutely. Keep getting back up.
Good point.
He's also saying we'll get a Killadelphia film before we get a Blade film. I'm calling it now. Yeah, poor Blade. It's just stuck.
Probably.
It's just stuck.
They're not here now that they're talking about a Wesley Snipes one now instead of Mahershala or whatever. I hope somehow they're able to fuse both of them together because, Wesley's a man of a certain age and, Mahershala is certainly a different feeling and vibe. I would love to see both of them be able to take up the sword or whatever you identify Blade as.
Both of them are such powerful actors, that'd be awesome if they were both on screen, share a movie, like passing the torch, so to speak.
Yep, exactly.
Exactly. That would be... And Wesley showed that he still got it in the last Deadpool movie, didn't he? He was superb. And I don't know if you guys have seen it on the big screen, out of every cameo in that movie, his was the one that got the biggest reaction in my theater. People went mad to see Wesley back.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Totally unexpected.
Yeah. GP's got another question for you. Is Nita ever going to get a deluxe release?
I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, we sort of, with the Killadelphia ones, we're always blessed to every couple of years to have a hardcover deluxe. With that, I may have to do more stories. As we had 2 volumes of Nita, and I think it takes maybe 2 will get us there, but I'm sure that if I did 3, we'd have a better shot.
Yeah. I loved that series, I have to say. Particularly the first arc was just something. And again, the writing, perfection, obviously, Rodney, but the artwork in that was was sickeningly good at points. You know, some of the scenes were just, oh my lord.
Yeah, when Nita went to hell, I went, "Oh my God, how the heck is she going to get out of this?"
Yeah.
You know, so that was just excellent
I,
writing.
I even didn't know how she was going to get out of it.
Yeah, do you ever get stuck, like when you're writing a book, like Nita Hawes when she was in hell, or you, I gotta, you know, do you just like?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I think it's one of those things where I don't start a story until I know the beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
The stuff in between is sort of the struggle, but the confidence comes where I know ultimately where I'm going. Sometimes I'll get in a situation where I'm in hell and I'm like, okay, how can I make this relevant? How can I make it like we're in hell? This should mean something. And I got to
Yeah.
find meaning that I didn't have. So that could be arduous.
Nice.
We've got lots of questions coming up, Rodney, but just before we move off kind of Killadelphia, I did just want to give a tip of the hat and say I am a horror fan. That's kind of my wheelhouse. But the thing I love most about Killadelphia was the relationship between father and son.
Yeah.
As a father myself, that for me was the heart of the book and what kept us coming back. Even though I love the horror element of it, you know. So just a massive thank you for giving us that beautiful relationship on the page. It was great.
Thanks.
We've talked a lot about horror movies, and like I say, that's my wheelhouse. Now I've seen a lot of your your Instagram posts and things, and I know you are a lover of older horror, but I'm wondering, is there any horror of the last few years that you've watched that you've thought, actually, you know what, this is pretty good?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot, and I try to figure out ways to answer it without sounding like an old man. I really appreciated A Quiet Place. I think I said that in one of the videos. I thought that 1, 2, and 3 all have their virtues, and I've appreciated. Sometimes, like when we were talking a moment ago about some of the older horror films, they had a certain layering to them that almost felt like they were speaking to the era that they were in. What was happening amongst the zeitgeist of the people. Nightmare on Elm Street with, the suburbs, everybody seeking shelter in the suburbs and danger being there. You think of the Wes Craven movies and George Romero with Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, talking about capitalism and a bunch of different issues with Night of the Living Dead. I miss that stuff. So a lot of times when I'm going to a movie that's just basically plot driven, where there isn't that element of ambition in regards to saying more than what it's actually saying. I like anybody, I can have a good time. I can sit down and have a jump scare and something that's really loud and all of that. But I loved it when I felt like a story like The Shining, where Stephen King is basically talking about his family coming apart. And I know the Kubrick movie is different than the book, but the idea of even speaking to family and the nuance of family and how something like addiction and alcoholism can play a role in the destruction of the family, that will stay with me, longer than just a plot driven movie that's there to just be fun. Even though my kids say I can't, but I can have fun. Even if you look at The Exorcist and layering there about faith and family, because I believe the mother was going through a divorce and the father was in another country, and the daughter, they were trying to get in touch with. We never saw him. We never talked to him. And there were so many different, aging and just so many different themes that were running through that movie that, I missed that. And so I don't know if that will ever be in vogue again, because the quiet moments, I think, scare the demo. If you think about The Exorcist, it took a good half hour before she peed on the carpet. Spoiler alert. And, it's like now we're used to this in the opening credits. Something grabs you, something's got to jump out immediately. And I like the slow burn. I like the slow burn if the slow burn is telling me something that I need to know, that's later going to have me either empathize for the protagonist or fear and respect the antagonist in a way that I didn't expect to. And I don't see that a lot today. So, I think the thing with A Quiet Place was more about how necessary it is for us to be able to communicate as human beings. and how difficult being quiet is in a really noisy world. So that speaks a little bit to what I'm talking about and what I would love to see. And every once in a while, people will suggest things that are on Netflix or in different places, not necessarily in theaters, or something that came out that I may have missed because I'm a slave to work. But I'm open to the idea, which is more important. I remember my parents did not want to hear my music. You know, I'm willing to listen to my kids' music, judge it. I will judge
Yeah.
it, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
will listen to it. So I think it's the same thing when it comes to horror films. It's not that I'm against them. It's not that, oh, they were better in my day. I just have a thing that appeals to me.
Yeah. And we all have different tastes and views, don't we? And that's part of the joy sometimes of this show that I do with my friend James, because we can watch the same film, but then come from it from totally different viewpoints. He can love it, and I can say this was rubbish. It's, you know, and it's interesting that people take such different things from movies. You know,
I see.
Yeah. When I do a podcast, Runful, and where I read scary stories, and we have a math. I had lunch with one of our writers yesterday, and there's a math to scary stories that I still, in our stories, I try to maintain in Killadelphia, that I try to maintain, to where what you just said about the father-son relationship, that's as important as the vampires and the presidents and all the other stuff that's fun. But everybody sort of has a point that they're trying to make beyond the agenda, the physical agenda. They have an emotional agenda as well.
Yeah, if you're not emotionally connected in some way, it is like you say, it's just jump scares and loud noises. You know,
Yes.
you don't care what happens to the characters really. Andy from Perpetual Comics has got some suggestions for you, Rodney. So you can have these. You can take these away. You know, Killadelphia. Can we get Scarolina, Massachusetts, and Deadaway? There you go. That's some new series for you. That'll be
There's
good.
Baltimore Murderland. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, the people send them to me all the time. There's a bunch of different places that Pistolvania. I had Pistolvania. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them out there. But one day I may do a a mashup of all of these things that people pitch me, and just put them in a short story or something.
Should plot the map, sorry, of the United States, just with all of the different titles. Yeah. Fuzzy's just saying here that, you know, I know he's a big fan of Nita, but we're also big fans of Simon Kredinsky. I don't know if you've read any of his work.
He did Nita. He did the second volume of Nita, and he did Johnny Gatton for me as well. We email each other from time to time. He wants me to start him. You know, I didn't finish the Johnny Gatlin story, and I didn't finish. We always talk Nita Volume 3. So
Simon did something epic. So if you ever do get the chance to read the first volume of that, again, that's a very, very emotional, centered story surrounded by monsters and creatures. It's superb. And Fuzzy's also saying he enjoyed Run Fool. I've been listening a few months, but I recommend it greatly. We've got Rod the Rican in. Nice to see you, Rod. Hope you're well, my friend. Okay, Efren, sorry, back to you, bud.
No worries. Yeah, we're all just having a good time here. So my next question is, how is starting a book from scratch compared to writing characters who have a long history?
The boundaries are different. You know, when you're writing a character from scratch, you can do anything. I think you can connect to them in a different way, because I've never written anything worth a damn that I wasn't emotionally connected to in some way. That I didn't feel some sense of empathy for a character. A lot of times when you're writing for characters that have been established for a long time, you have to work within the boundaries of who that character is. I remember when I wrote Falcon, I put Blade in it and vampires and things that, in quotes, I was told Falcon wasn't supposed to do by the fans. Like, Falcon is supposed to be a soldier, and he's, you know, this is what he does. And that sort of takes the fun away from it for me, because I remember when I was a kid, again, doing the old man thing again, that, you know, you could see the weirdest matchups and team ups, you know, across. The Hulk could team up or fight Man-Thing, and they were going to be friends in the end. But, you know, what's Bruce Banner doing there? And it's now I think fans have a completely different view of who these characters are and what they're, in quotes, supposed to do, because of the movies and the TV shows. They sort of create a new they create the dimensions that they create. Can you think of Iron Man now and not see Robert Downey? You know, can you, you know, it's, I think it affects the way the books are done. So as much as I still love doing it, I still love writing. I'm doing a Batman book right now and some other things. And of course, doing Star Wars, there's nothing but boundaries in the Star Wars world. But I appreciate both. I appreciate both.
When you do Marvel, for example, how much input did they have? I mean, do you hand in like a sheet a day or a couple of sheets and they have to look it over to give you the okay, or they just tell you just go with it?
No, like right now I have a script that's due and they want that script yesterday and I probably won't have it today. But I wait, I do the whole script because I give them a whole pitch and I give them a script and then we move on to the next.
Nice.
Just kind of a similar theme then. You've wrote obviously some big hitters. You wrote a lot of your own characters. You wrote some Marvel, Star Wars. Is there any character or a series that you haven't written that you'd love to get your teeth into?
Swamp Thing. I just
Oh yeah.
I've been trying for a while and submitted some pictures and some things, so we're waiting. But got my opportunity right, Batman, doing that now, and Swamp Thing would be another because I love the Alan Moore, Bissett, Tobin run that sort of changed my life, and even Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein, and the Scott Snyder version, and a bunch of other great writers have done some Ram V and all of that. Have, you know, a lot have done some great work with them. I'd love to add my name to the pantheon of writers who've tackled Swamp Thing.
You see, you've got us. You're teasing because the thought of a Rodney Barnes Swamp Thing is something that I think would fly off the shelves, Rodney.
It would be different.
If you had your choice of artist on that, who would you be going for, do you think?
Oh my God, I can't see past Bissett and Tobin, but I think I would love to do it with Jason. Yeah. I think Jason and I are doing it because we have a certain chemistry together. We've been working together for so long, and I know he knows my strengths, I know his strengths, and we sort of play to each other's strengths.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. We've got MJ Comics in the chat. Nice to see you, MJ. And Rod, he's saying love to the panel. Thank you, Rod. Rod is, I don't know if you've ever caught up with Rodney. He's a phenomenal guy. Actually, he's a matchmaker. He got me and Efren together many years ago, invited him on a show.
Nice.
Yeah, GP saying, "Oh hell yeah, Rodney doing Swamp Thing would be fire." Absolutely. Back to you, Efren.
I put this in, but we've talked about most of them already. Just Killadelphia, Nita, Hawes, Nightmare Blog, and Blackula. I know they've been together already in Killadelphia. Did you plan that at the very beginning when you started first writing Killadelphia? Hey, I want to bring
yes,
characters.
Yes and no. I planned for Jimmy Sangster, James's son, came from Baltimore because he was a beat cop in Baltimore. And I wanted there to be some story, something he left behind. I didn't know it would be Nita Hawes. I didn't know the story would, you know, be basically a monster hunter or a demon hunter, however you would describe her. But I knew I wanted to do something that was different than Killadelphia. And the thing that I love about cities in America is they're all different. They all have a different tone. In Run Fool, when we tell folk tales, they're basically folk tales about from different parts of the country, different monsters that people have. Like we have a monster, Chessie, in the Chesapeake Bay and all of them. But basically they take on the personality of the town. You know, it's very much related to the town. And I wanted Nita Hawes to be Baltimore. You know, I wanted her to feel different than how the Sangsters feel in Philadelphia. And even though they're towns that have a diverse population, very urban, very hard in some ways, they still manifest themselves differently culturally. You know, crabs in Maryland and, you know, and rabid sports fans in Philly and the history of, you know, the birth of the nation and all of that stuff. So I wanted a character that sort of spoke to Baltimore in an organic way.
Do you ever think you'll expand the Killadelphia universe besides?
I've done 20 Degrees Past Rigor on Substack. I think we're going to print it this year. And it's a zombie book where the zombies talk and they can think to a degree. And then Johnny Gatlin, that was in the back of the backups of Killadelphia for a while, and we'll see if it keeps going. But what keeps going is success. The fans
Yeah.
kind of dictate what they want to see, and I would never want to put out something consistently that fans are bored and we're like, we don't want to see that. So I would like to. The answer is yes. Probably I'm writing a novel right now with Sting, and trying to another form of fantasy and dark fantasy and stuff. So I may end up making that a graphic novel after it's a novel as well. So I don't know if I can Killadelphia, but we'll see.
Yeah, what I would like to see, and obviously, just my opinion, but in the back after, a book of Killadelphia, if you could put like what the outside world is thinking right now, all this stuff happening in Philadelphia.
Yes, that's actually we were talking about taking a break from Killadelphia, but rebooting it again with an issue 1, but basically the outside world, and getting a view in, and that would tell us where we are when we get back into that story.
Nice.
Just as you were talking there, Ronnie, you mentioned the book you're writing, and it kind of makes us think that you've mentioned screenplay, you've mentioned your comics, how many roughly projects do you have on the go at any one point? Because it seems like you've got a lot happening.
1, 2, 3. I'm looking at my whiteboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 that are due by the end of the month.
Wow.
Do you sleep? Do you
No.
actually?
That's why I look so tired. That's what I'm looking at myself. I look unkept because I don't rest, and I have a lot of responsibility in between as well.
Yeah.
But you love what you do, so that's the important thing too.
People say that a lot, and when they say that, it's like I take it with a grain of salt. I like when it's done. That's when I enjoy it. Going through the process is like going to the gym for me. I don't like going to the gym. I don't like getting up. I don't like putting on the clothes. I don't like going to the gym. I don't like exercising. I like to leave.
Yeah.
So there's a sense when I'm leaving and I'm driving away that I've accomplished something. The process up to that feeling is just as difficult as it is for anyone else.
When you're at a convention, do you, like at the end of the con, usually cons about 8 to 10 hours, do you get to relax, or do you just go back to your hotel and go, I gotta start writing?
When I was at Dragon Con, I worked on this script the whole time I was there. I think I went outside one time.
Wow. Fuzzy's got it worked out, Rodney. Fuzzy's got it worked out. You're a vampire. It makes sense now. It all makes sense.
I don't think I'd be able to keep this size on me, just drinking blood. Yeah, blood doesn't have much carbs in it from what I hear. So I think it would be difficult for me to maintain this size. But yeah, who knows? I could be a day walker. So
if you're in San Diego Comic-Con next year, I'm going to say hi to you, hopefully, and I'm going to ask you if you want to go eat some tacos after the con. So
I'll be there. They put me up. I was a special guest this year, and they put me up to at the hotel next door, which was yeah, I know the other one on the other side.
Oh, the Marquee.
The Marquee, yeah, that one. And it was the first time I could actually go to Comic-Con and not have to like walk a mile or two in order to get there, and it was simple. So I actually got an opportunity to enjoy Comic-Con in a different way. I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was able to enjoy it in a different way. So it's possible.
Oh, speaking of Comic-Con, congratulations, Peter. He won an award. I was there at the panel, the Ink Pot Award.
Yeah, the Ink Pot. It's over there on my bookshelf. Yeah.
I went to talk to you after the panel, and I was looking at it. I'm going, boy, that looks really nice.
It was nice. It's very, very nice. It's very, very nice.
Yeah.
Well,
you can go to Comic-Con Life for free. So that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of Comic-Con, then one of the things that I think it was announced at Comic-Con, I might be wrong, but certainly I saw the artwork was Batman Full Moon.
Yes.
The cover to that just immediately, you see it and you think, yeah, that's done. I'm getting that without doubt. What details can you give about it without spoilers, obviously? What's it?
Well, the cover gives you part of it. Batman's fighting a werewolf in Gotham City. We got some guest stars in it. Man-Bat is in it. Constantine is in it. Zatanna is in it. Let me see if I'm forgetting anybody. I think that's it. It's a black label book, so it's very, very hard and gritty. Some profanity. They're ripping off arms. It's a brutal book. So if you like Killadelphia, it's the tone of Killadelphia. It's dark. It's very dark. There's some humor. There's, jokes throughout. You got Constantine. That's one of the reasons why I wanted Constantine to kind of lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is the goal was to push Bruce Wayne in a way that, you know, he couldn't use gadgets or his knowledge of Gotham City in order to be able to solve this problem. This problem was bigger than him. So can't say where he goes, but he has to go someplace outside of the city in order to find answers for a particular problem he has, which is pretty bad problem, pretty big problem.
Is this your first time writing for DC?
No, I did a Brave and the Bold short with Jason a couple months ago.
Okay. I haven't read it yet, but I ordered it. It should be coming in today or tomorrow. Florence and Normandy. That's based in LA, correct?
Yeah, it's where the Rodney King ride started. It's a book that I did with Exhibit.
Okay. And it's just a graphic novel, correct?
It's a full graphic novel like Blackula. I published it under my imprint. It's a book of aliens. It's an alien attack. Aliens attack on that. It starts there. It starts on the corner of Florence and Normandy. And it has some cultural undertones, you know, about the math of the city and how it works. But it's really about people working together. People that typically don't get the opportunity to battle aliens. How would that work? How would a community come together to fight aliens? If you can think War of the Worlds, where people are typically running. These people run, but, you know, because it's South LA, they turn around and fight too. So, you know, I'm very, very proud of it. Very proud to have my second book out and see if we can keep it going.
So for Florence and Normandy, really quick. So it's under your umbrella, correct? It's not going to a different
Zombie Love Studios. Nope, Zombie Love Studios.
Do you feel more pressure when you do that besides, or when you have Image or Marvel? Because, you know, this is you basically.
It's all the same pressure. All of it's me.
Yeah.
You know, all of it has my name on it. If you put your name on it, you got to be able to bless it. Nobody's going to say, hey, it's Rodney, but it's Image, so it might be a little different. There's an expectation at a certain point that there'll be quality, that it'll be thoughtful. And I'm proud of that. I worked hard to try to create a sense of a relationship with the audience, that they can depend on me, and that I'm going to do my best to entertain them. So, you know, I want that to be the through line of everything that I do.
Well, without blowing smoke up your backside, Rodney, you've absolutely achieved that, because we all know what you pick up a Rodney Barnes book, you know what you're getting, you know, which is entertainment, and character and heart and passion. So yeah, it's working for you. We're very conscious of the fact that you are a very busy man. So last question from us. If anybody in the chat has got any questions, final questions for Rodney, please pop them in. But Efren, I don't know if you want to take our last question.
You've talked about it a little bit, but what are you working currently on that you can tell us about? Comic books, movies, or TV shows?
I've got a miniseries at HBO in development about Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion of the world, with Mahershala Ali, and I've been working steadily away on that. I have 3 movies that I'm writing at the same time. I'm looking at the board. I'm cheating. 1, 2, 3, 4 books that I'm writing, comics, and a novel, and an adaptation of that novel that I'm writing simultaneously. So
Incredible.
That's what I'm doing.
How much time do you give each project? Like, you say, hey, I got an hour for this and I'm going to go to something else, or?
I keep going. Whoever's cussing me out the loudest in my mailbox is typically the squeakiest wheel. The meanest, squeakiest wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
I have to ask you one final question then from me, because we've talked a lot horror. I know you're a big horror fan. I also know you're into your Star Wars. You like your sci-fi. Star Wars or Star Trek, Rodney? Where does your heart lie?
Star Trek.
Oh my God.
Good man. Good. That's the correct answer. Well done. Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry, the Kobayashi Maru, all of that. I had all the models as a kid. You know, I had every Enterprise. I had every little model that you could put together. I had that. I had the plans to the Enterprise. I've got pictures with all of the original cast because that was my cast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it just caught me at a different time. It came on TV, and TV was the thing. And the movies were like, I really loved them, obviously, but they were 3 years apart. And Star
Yeah.
Trek was a every day after school at 4 o'clock because they
Yeah.
were in syndication by the time I got into them. But they were still sort of always present in a way. So, you know, and some of those episodes were kind of like the Twilight Zone, where they were talking about social issues and things that sort of mattered to the world that I came up in.
Do you know, you mentioned the Twilight Zone. I miss that kind of series, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, you know, those kind of shows that we don't seem to have much on at the moment that's like that.
Well, that's why I did Runful. That's the reason
Yeah.
why I wanted to tell stories. I think there's a different math because the world has kind of moved on from, talking about the dangers of climate change directly. Like the Twilight Zone directly dealt with issues across
Yeah.
the board, the dangers of a myriad of subject matter. I mean, I love, Charles Beaumont, Rod Serling, Richard Matheson, this bunch of writers that I loved. And I have all the original scripts somewhere around here, but Night Gallery as well. But I think in today's world, you got to tweak it a little bit. It's as much because I think we're a lot more self-absorbed and a lot more self-focused. And those types of anthology series, I think, have to be told in a way that focus more on the individuals, have to reflect the values and ethics of today's society, not so much, I'm saying from an entertainment point of view.
No, absolutely.
For
I
the
agree.
world, not so much. I look at every time they have the marathon on Sci-Fi, I keep the TV on. Just you're talking Tina, I want all of them. I want to watch them all. But I just think it's a different world right now, and everybody's into the serialized thing. So how do you create an anthology series? Black Mirror, I guess, does it, and there's a few others. But what you're talking about, that half-hour thing to where you just get a really good story.
There's a I don't know if it's reached you guys over in the States, but there's a great anthology series called Inside Number 9, which is maybe worth you checking out. It's every single episode's got a different quirky kind of style to it. It's superb. Fuzzy's thinking you're not busy enough, Rodney, so he's tasking you with a new job. Can you write me an MF Doom book or a comic or a TV show?
I'll see what I can do. I got an hour tonight between 9:30 and 10:30 before I think was today Friday. No, the football game's on tonight. I'll work on it on Friday before Dateline.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Now we've got Shiny just saying, hey, great guest. With so many stories going on simultaneously, do you use a system to make sure you don't repeat yourself, or do they just rely on memory? That's a great question.
I think it relies mostly on instinct. I like character-driven stories, and I feel a lot. So a lot of times, if you read Killadelphia, no one story is like the next. Even though I'm picking up the story in issue 2 that you read in issue 1, emotionally, it's not going to feel the same. And I always try to change themes. I try to change character motivations, not so much the motivation that's within them, but I never want you to say, I did this already.
Yeah.
I've got an issue with that. So I'm always looking for a way to surprise you. And like I've heard the greatest compliment fans could give me when they talked about Killadelphia was, I have no idea where this book is going. And you start off on the streets of Philadelphia and you're talking to Jesus, in a couple of issues. So,
I wasn't
who knows
expecting Savage Dragon to show up. I tell you that.
Yeah. Even Spawn, when Spawn showed up in the end, when Seesaw and Anansi turned the corner and Spawn's there, it's like everybody was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But,
Fuzzy's just confirming that's a contract now. Yeah.
Got it. Yes. Don't sue me if I'm not able to get to it. It's not intentional.
All right, Rodney, I have one more question I just thought of. You mentioned football. You got any predictions for the Super Bowl?
No. I've gotten to a point when I was a kid, I was a huge Cowboys fan because I grew up in the same town where Roger Staubach played college ball, Navy. And because of free agency, both in basketball and in football, a team could be completely different the one season to season. So it's not like you get to know the players and you can really be a fan in the way that I was a fan coming up. I become a fan more of just a good game. I just want to, in the NFL, there's so much parity that even if you've got 1 or 2 games on with teams that I don't really know, like the Browns or whoever, Vikings. Still could be a good game. It's worthy, and I think the brilliance of the NFL is they've made it so that it's so competitive. The margin of error is so slight that you could have a good game. You don't know. Like I'm glad I don't have a gambling addiction. I have a carbohydrate, not a gambling addiction, because there's no way I would know who's going to win from. I'm the worst person to ask that question. I have no idea.
Peter, we have any more questions, or are we just about wrapping this up?
No, I think we've kept Rodney long enough. Thank you so much, Rodney. You've been a delight to talk to, an absolute delight.
I look forward to doing it again, and when I get across the pond, I'll check you guys out.
Like I was about to say, you're welcome back anytime you want to talk about a book or a movie. Just you got my email address, and we'll have you on for sure.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Peter, anything else before we say goodbye?
No, just like I say, a massive thank you, Rodney. Really do appreciate it. Please do go check out all of Rodney's work, particular Killadelphia, and also that Batman book, which will be, I'm sure, absolutely amazing. Can't wait for that one. Can't wait for that.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Shiny.
Until next time, everybody, I always say go out and buy a comic book, and if you can, a Rodney book, and read it. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.